Thanks very much, Paul, and thank you to MediaTel for inviting us here today. It is a really exciting moment, and as Paul said, after 25 years in digital, having been very excited about the possibilities, and having seen the sort of roller coaster ride that we've been on, I really think this moment that we're in now is potentially transformational for the advertising industry, and couldn't be more thrilled to be here today. It is undoubtedly going to be challenging as well, though, and lots of competitive dynamics going on. So a really interesting moment for all of us, and one where we do need to work together to make this happen for our audiences. I think a couple of the speakers this morning have already made that point. So I've only got 10 minutes, and I wanted to talk to you about a report that we commissioned, called The Future Viewing Experience. I really recommend it, particularly after having seen the content that we've got here, because the scope of it is very, very much what's reflected in the agenda. And I think it'll be a great way of kind of bringing back some of the thinking, some of the ideas that are coming out of all the sessions, some of the knowledge, some of the developments, and kind of grounding it in a framework. I'm not planning to take you all the way through it because I only have a short period of time. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a taster of part of it, and then a recommendation to where to go to download it. It is absolutely free. So brilliant. So just a little bit, I didn't realize the top line's gone grey. You can't see it, but essentially these are, and in fact part of the left-hand column's gone grey as well. Kantar Media Division essentially measures panels in 62 markets worldwide, and we have in 15 of those, which are the ones pulled out in gold, we're also offering some part of cross-media measurement. So we're really focused on audience measurement, particularly video audience measurement, and increasingly taking that total video picture. And just a little bit about the background behind the report. We commissioned it following the pandemic. Obviously, we all saw that sort of step-changing viewing behaviour, and we wanted to see what was going on both in terms of the experiences and the choices that were available for consumers and how they were responding to that, but also looking at what that meant in the industry for monetisation, and of course, importantly, for us, but as we've heard already today, importantly for all of the industry, how we bring that together, how does audience measurement support that and enable it to develop going forward. So I'm not going to take you through all 9 of the predictions. And in fact, some of these predictions have already come to life and are really trends rather than predictions. But as I said, they're all going to be available in the report. Essentially, they're framed around 4 areas. Content and delivery, so what's going on in terms of that kind of vertical integration as new models are developing and what that means to control the viewing gateway, which is really important, as we all know, in order to be able to make sure that you get the share of voice. Viewer behaviour, new strategies for actually targeting audiences and monetising. Advertising, what's going to happen in the advertising space, some ideas around that. Again, we've heard some of that today, and I'm sure we'll hear some more later. And of course, data, it's all about privacy, the viewer value exchange. Are we really delivering that quality of experience that is going to help us grow advertising in a sort of AVOD world? Because if we can get that right, I'm really convinced that we can start to bring in viewers who perhaps may have been avoiders of ads in the past. So that's a real kind of call to action. So I'm going to focus very briefly on the viewer behaviour part, and just talk a little bit about some of the findings in the report. So one of the key trends that we pulled out, and of course we've seen it developing, it's constantly developing at the moment, I'm sure we're already out of date in some ways, are the new diversification of offer that's coming in from all the different either SVOD, BVOD, or new AVOD businesses. So what's happening with obviously the Netflix launch, potential Apple TV, ITVX, and some of the changes in terms of Prime and YouTube taking sports, etc. So that's really, the businesses are changing, but also consumers are changing. We've seen some quite marked trends in terms of consumers changes how they feel about subscription video on demand. So for example, the impact of inflation and all of the challenges in the economy is really hitting home with consumers. And you'll see this report looking at the US, Germany, and the UK, with people giving a reason for cancellation of SVOD services related to saving money. And that's grown quite sharply. And then on the right-hand side, we're also seeing a much more positive approach towards ads and people being much more open to seeing ad-funded content again. So they're giving us this window. Let's make sure we use it well. Okay, but what does this really mean? I mean, there's going to be a very, very competitive environment, particularly with all of these new offers coming in, ad-free, ad-supported, the economic pressures that we see around us. Viewers, basically looking for the content that suits them, but are they loyal to the platforms? Are they loyal to the existing offers? So really this competitive environment is going to grow, and this bubbles on the right just shows some of the overlap. This is the Norwegian market, looking at the fact that people they're not just using SVOD, they're not just using AVOD, they're not just using BVOD, they're jumping between all of these offers, and of course the switching costs are significantly less than they might have been in the past. It's so much easier for a user to switch, or viewer to switch from one service to another. So that marketplace is very competitive, as I know you all know. And what we see, particularly with our kind of providing the audience measurement hat on, is the importance of really understanding what's going on in that competitive environment so that the service providers can actually really get under the skin of what their competitors are doing that's successful or not successful, or how that's developing. And I think we've also talked about this a little bit this morning, and we'll talk about it some more, but just the need to continually innovate and try out new windowing strategies, way of playing off different genre, really understanding what audiences are doing, both for one's own business, but also in the competitive environment. And this is just one chart. You may have seen similar ones before. This is looking at the top 100 shows for the UK SVOD market over a period earlier this year, and highlighting the fact that series drops really help to drive reach for some of the SVOD platforms, but obviously that tails off. Everyone burns through it, enjoys it, and is on to the next thing. So there's a constant battle to keep audiences engaged, keep audiences switched on. Okay, how am I doing? Not so well. I'm going to build really quickly through this one. So streaming, I love this. This is the facilitation of international culture, right? So we now have the opportunity to see maybe niche content from all over the world. It's available to us in our living rooms, and that's really helping very positively to develop both the content and the viewer experience. So we saw the ease with which Squid Game went global. You see many other similar content from different markets really landing effectively and around the world. And also the kind of globalization of the sports franchises. So the Premier League is now going to be earning more money from international sales than it is within the UK for the first time, thanks to this real opening up of viewer choice. And then there's also, obviously, the continued and sustained demand for that local content. So this isn't actually a threat to local content, this globalization. This is opening up new markets for that local content worldwide. So super, super exciting. I think that's my last content chart. Yes, it is. So I've really given you a whistle-stop tour there of this super report. I recommend it highly. I didn't write it myself, but it's really good. And I think it will help us all as we're trying to think about what does the future look like across these four important pillars that we talked about. So content and delivery, viewer behaviour, ads, and data and privacy. I would encourage you to download it. The URL is here. So it's kantar.com FutureVX, and also we have a hashtag. So thank you very much. I have left 35 seconds for questions. I don't know if there's anyone who... I'm a team player.
A question, otherwise I'm going to shoot one. Awesome. Right, shall I do it? Out of these four 4 trends, which is the one these guys should take away as the biggest influencer?
Oh, yeah, well, you have to get the data right, the privacy right. We are creating a new experience through the addressable ads AVOD world. And if we make it a good one, then at last we will be able to deliver relevance. But let's make sure the relevance really is relevant.
Yeah.
So I feel that's probably the most fundamental. But obviously, the fact I've showcased the audience data today reminds everyone that that is fundamental too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. It's about audience experience. We never forget that. We'll be all good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you.
I think leave that here.